So good morning and welcome to the Energy Just Transition module. We have two presentations today. Just for some of the new faces, what we did yesterday, we actually had two key lectures. The idea of this module is try to go into a just transition. So the task of lectures yesterday first was kind of to clear the conceptual framework in which we approach the idea of what is actually a just transition and all these different terms in terms of just transition, climate justice, environmental justice, and some of the nuances, and try to kind of see what is there on the field and map different concepts and try to come up with better understanding of what we are actually talking about when we talk about just transition, because as we've seen, there are people who firmly believe in it. There are policies which have that name in terms of just transition, but there are also skeptics about whether this transition can be just and what that just transition would look like. So that was our starting point, our departure point. In these two sessions, we are trying to go a deep dive into one of the areas we identified as we are joined by the presentations. We are going to go a deep dive into two specific topics or segments of what we as a team or in the discussions, or basically there is also a consensus on that, is actually perceived and thought about as the issues related to just transition. And our first session is just transition in carbon intensive regions. And for that we have a panel which is actually a completely international panel. We have Radostina Slavkova from Bulgaria, we have Alexandru Kellerman from Romania, and we have Maja Pupovac from Serbia. And the format of this session is going to be presentations of 20 minutes, and then after that we're going to have a floor for questions. We're going to make a short break and then go for the next session, and the next session is going to deal with energy poverty, where we're going to have two presenters trying to unpack the issues related to energy poverty and different policies and issues related to that important problem in terms of what just transition should look like and what is. So without further ado, we are going to start with Radostina. We are joined by the presentation. So Radostina, take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. I'm Radostina, and I'm Climate and Energy Coordinator at Environmental Association Zazimeta, or Friends of Dear Bulgaria. I've been working on coal phase out for 4 years already, and I'll start with some few more words what is just transition. Okay, sorry, start.
Is it working? I'm sorry. No?
I cannot change it.
No, it's not. Okay, I'm gonna change.
Okay, first,
Slide.
second slide.
Okay.
So what is just transition? So indeed, we have a transition. We have a shift from one development path towards another, but it should be done in a fair and inclusive way. But still, even for the carbon-intensive regions, for the coal regions, the just transition is not the panacea. It's not the ultimate solution that will solve all the problems of the region. But without it, even because of the general structure of the extractive industries, we'll have a collapse and many, many victims. But in the end, the just transition is done for the people. And in order to be successful, they all need to be on board, to participate in it, and to be able to influence it. So how this could be done? In EU, we have the general framework of the just transition mechanism, and the current European Commission was very determined to put the European Union on a coal-free path, and this is the main mechanism, the main tool to do so. It should mobilize in the period 21-27. No, the one on just transition mechanism, so 4. Yeah, thank you. It should mobilize 55 billion euro so that the negative socio-economic impacts from the transition could be alleviated in the most affected countries and regions. Next slide, how to do so. There are three main pillars. The Just Transition Fund, which consists of, it actually, with current prices, the sum is even bigger, 19.2 billion euro, and it provides grants for different activities in the core regions. I'll talk about it in a while. The second pillar is the InvestEU program, which provides budgetary guarantees. And the third one is in cooperation with the European Investment Bank, combining again grants and loans to attract additional funds for the JT regions. But maybe the main tool these funds could be used are the so-called territorial just transition plans. These regions are agreed in communication with the European Commission, and after they are adopted, the funds can start be invested and used. So which are the main, actually all the EU countries could benefit from the Just Transition Fund, but still the biggest beneficiaries are Germany, Poland, Romania, although countries like Bulgaria, Estonia, and Czechia also receive quite significant help from the fund. And there are other helping instruments like the Global Regions in Transition platform, which is more like a info desk and one-shop information for national, regional, local authorities, providing them up-to-date information, and also very important for exchange of good practices. What's the experience of Bulgaria with this platform? Actually, it was set by the Commission in 2017, and until 1st of January 2020, there were almost no discussions in Bulgaria about the just transition. But on this date, the National Parliament adopted a very important but at the same time contradictory decision. It voted Bulgaria to join the platform, and actually this was the last EU country to do so. But in the decision, they kind of forced the government to do so without any commitment to close down the coal power sector, which is kind of contradictory to the whole logic of the coal platform. But this decision kind of united all political parties and was used as a tool to guarantee their votes for them in the next elections, which happened very, very often in the last years in Bulgaria. There is a similar platform also for the Western Balkans and Ukraine. 17 co-regions are included in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Serbia, and Ukraine. And the goal is the same, like exchange of information and good practices. But a few more words about the situation in Bulgaria and the coal intensity. Actually, we have 3 coal regions. Near Sofia is located the Pernik one, using brown coal, and very close is Bobovdol, which is located in the Kyustendil coal region. And the third and biggest coal region is Stara Zagora in the Maritsa East Basin, which is extracting lignite coal. Near Stara Zagora is located the Maritsa East Energy Complex with these 4 TPPs, among which is Maritz 2, which is the state-owned and the biggest coal power plants, not only in Bulgaria but in the Balkans. 1,620 megawatts. There is also the oldest one, Berkel, that should have closed down more than 10 years ago, but unfortunately it's still working under protection by the authorities. Yeah, here you can also see some figures about the direct correlated jobs. Again, they are much more in Stara Zagora in comparison with the other two regions, but in total they are like 13,600 people. Maybe the direct and indirect jobs are around 36,000 to 40,000, although we hear very different figures from the trade unions. They are citing like 100,000 people, but they don't provide any explanations where this figure is coming from. How much is the JT support? We're expected to receive 1.3 billion euro, mainly from the Just Transition Fund, but also from operational program and other investment programs. But what would we use these funds for? So it's not only for direct employment, for reskilling of the workforce in the core regions, but it should be more holistic, helping both small and medium enterprises, also to develop new economic sectors, to improve the mobility, the education sector. Of course, we need new alternative sources of energy, and for these regions it's mainly renewables, but also some other forms like geothermal. But what's more important is how to change the status quo and to move from the one mono industry that the whole region was focused on, the coal sector, and to diversify the opportunities for the people. Young people are also not that much inclined to continue in the same direction as their fathers and grandfathers. They just need the opportunities and the local and nearby university to provide other specialties, not only correlated. It's also very important to put the people at the heart of the energy transition and to talk with them about the different opportunities the Green Deal is providing for them and for the whole region. One way to do so is by joining the energy system, becoming prosumers themselves, or joining energy cooperatives. We still don't have the enabling conditions, neither the legislation or supportive mechanism, but we're in the process to do so, and in this way they will feel more included in the transition. But still, where we are now, Bulgaria still hasn't prepared its territorial plans for just transition for the three core regions. As I said, the whole discussion and debate started relatively late in comparison with other EU countries, which by 2020 have already done much progress, and we were just starting. So the first practical information appeared in August last year when a very initial draft of the plans was discussed in public hearing, but the quality of this document was very, very poor, and in practice, after the consultation, no work was done for improving it until maybe 2 months ago, when we got a new regular government, which kind of take up seriously the task. And it was seriously because we already have lost JT funds.
What's FC?
What's what?
MS? The
Member
Vice
states?
Member state. Oh.
Yeah, sorry. EU member states. Yes. Yes, we lost the JT funds for the last year, almost 100 million euro, which are actually quite significant money for the two smaller core regions. But the good thing is that now we have progress. It's currently a second version of the plans is under consultation, and the aim is the plans to be finalized and adopted by the end of the year, so that indeed the just transition could be funded. What's inside the plans, or what should be inside? The main pillar is sustainable energy solutions, which is giving grants for these activities. And as you can see on the next slide, Bulgaria has given examples of mainly such activities. And here for example, recultivation of the mining grounds, which is kind of the easiest alternative employment for the miners. And it could last for kind of 10 years or so, even before their retirement. Other schemes are about sustainable energy solutions, photovoltaic parks, wind turbines. Green hydrogen is seen as a kind of very good solution, and it received much focus. Like Stara Zagora wants to become the new hydrogen valley, but unfortunately this will not attract and provide much jobs for the local people. The second pillar, the social support with vocational and retraining centers, is not that well developed in the plans yet. Neither the diversification of the economy. It's just mentioned, but with very, very little concrete details. But still, from the work of the coal industry so far, we have many problems, like the poor health, the contaminated lands, air, the disturbed biodiversity, but also even economic dependencies. Like I said, the whole region depends on this industry, on this energy oligarch, and they can do almost everything they want. And they're like feudal lords, if I may use this word here.
What is that?
They influence not only the politics in the region, but also all kinds of employments. And for example, they force the people, or even the employees in the municipality to vote in such a way that would benefit keeping the status quo. And there are some proofs in that direction. The next slide, please. Which are the barriers which are kind of hindering the transition? The lack of participation, but before that, the lack of information. very little is done from the institutions to talk with the people from the co-regions about the Green Deal, about the alternatives for the regions, and what we try to do is organize stakeholder meetings mainly in Stara Zagora region, and invite different sectors representative to present to them what is the current state of play with the territorial plans, what can be included, and when people learned about that, they kind of become very much interested and approving of the transition, and were themselves proposing different ways and project ideas that could be included in the final plans. As I mentioned, instead of decentralization and democratization of the energy industry, which we are advocating for, the authorities are keeping the old framework, and they still want to invest in mega projects and the Hydrogen Valley I mentioned, but also some huge projects for batteries, which is actually quite unrealistic to happen in the way it was planned. Still, it's curious, maybe you can go to the second slide, that the energy oligarchs, the people with people like the energy oligarch Hristo Kovački, maybe some of you have heard of him. They were the first to kind of recognize the opportunities in the Green Deal, and they formed this NGO, From Brown to Green, which is aiming to utilize the EU funds for their own benefit. And they are very advanced, for example, in the process of building photovoltaic park and to be producing green hydrogen, while they are still using coal and burning coal in their nearby facilities. And similar situation is in the Maritsa East Basin, where people connected to this businessmen are trying to buy cultivated plots so they can build photovoltaic parks and again sell the electricity and benefit from it. Yeah, this picture is actually very interesting. It was the first protest for clean air organized by the citizens of Golubovo, where are located 3 of the 4 coal power plants. And it happened last September. It's another curious fact that just opposite this protest was a counter protest by the miners and by the employees of the coal plant, which was much more numerous. But as I said, because of the economic dependencies, these people are even forced to participate and to protect the interests of the employers. And this is another protest from affected people from the Beli Breg village who live very close to the vicinities of the mines, and that people need to leave their village to be expropriated in order the coal mining to continue. And they cannot stay anymore in their homes, but neither they are receiving proper compensations to start their life anew. And yeah, we're kind of supporting these people also through legislative steps and lawsuits. Yeah, I already mentioned. Let's go to 26 slide. I already mentioned these just transition meetings we're organizing with people in the regions, which are really very informative also for us and helping us to better protect their interests. But they can for sure see alternative developments also in other sectors like agriculture, culture, winemaking, spa tourism, which the region is also famous for, but and we're very much inclined to continue this conversation with local people and to better place their demands in the final territorial plans. And maybe the very last slide, 28. This is a cartoon against the electricity, and we can see a similar fight and disinformation campaign towards renewables, towards heat pumps and other green technology solutions. But in the end, these technologies would prove themselves and are most likely going to stay. And thank you very much. I remain open for questions in the follow-up session.
Thank you, Sina, for the presentation. I think we got pretty good intro into what is the context in which, as particular, actually just transition is happening, and obviously links with the EU. I think from the Western Balkans, we like to see that as kind of the future. And I think one of the main issues when you saw this distribution of actually funds available in the EU for the transition is something that the Western Balkans actually not having proper access to. Just to give you a bit of a context as well, for the total period for currently the European agenda for the Green Balkans, for the Balkans, which is basically an addendum to the European Green Agenda, is a total of 9 billion euros for the period of 7 years for all 6 countries, and it's basically everything, not only the just transition in specific regions, but for everything, including all infrastructural help coming from the EU. There is negotiations that the Western Balkans can join the just transition mechanisms in the European Green Agenda that is kind of mentioned, but it's still work in progress, and I think it's very important to know that the access to resources is key to these things. But I think also one I think which I want to flag in this presentation and bring on forward as well is the idea of greenwashing, because where there is money, there is usually ways to try to use that money, and there is this term of greenwashing where you actually have these false environmental projects which very dubious impact, which are sold as a very environmentally friendly or within the transition, but it's actually used as an extraction of resources very often. So that's something which is another risk which we are seeing in this energy transition. Moving forward, Alexander, going to Romania now, it's like a bit like Eurovision. So let's see, it's very important work as well in a very specific valley, I understand. So Alexander, take it over. Alexander, take it over.
Okay, so first, thank you very much for having me today. I always love to come to Serbia. It's my 3rd time, only in Belgrade the previous 2 times, but it's a very nice valley once you get out of the highway until here. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Sorry?
Next to the mines.
Next to the mines. That's yeah. So my name is Alexandru Kelemen. I am a social worker by profession. Very proud social worker to say so. Unfortunately, in the last 2 years, I've done nothing but just transition, not social work, which makes me a bit sad. But that's life. And I will tell you a little bit on local activation actually of stakeholders, and to understand a little bit that usually when you are trying to implement some policies bottom up, you can find some resources even in places where you haven't looked, actually in social work or different other things. People can be let's say brought in this process of just transition. That's my personal example. As I mentioned 3 years ago, I didn't want anything to do with just transition, and now I'm leading actually the just transition process in the region. But going forward, I come from Jiu Valley, and I will talk to you a little bit about, first of all, community engagement, and second, about the transition process, which go together in order to make the conditions so that the process will be hopefully successful. I don't have a guarantee for this, but I will tell you a little bit about Jiu Valley and what we have done. So just to identify it geographically, we are in the southwestern part of Romania, very close to Serbia actually, and close to Bulgaria. We have 6 municipalities, more than 100,000 inhabitants, but not a lot more, so 107,000 inhabitants. We are at the confluence of 3 national parks, which gives us actually some of the future potential. And we had a black coal-based industry, so underground mining, and more than 15 mines open in 1900s, and now 4 operating, out of which 2 of them will close in 2026, and 2 will be running until 2030. I'm not so sure about this because of lack of investment. I don't think they will be, they will not be. But Romania has decided to, in order to have all this money, you need to have a coal phase-out decision at national level. And the coal phase-out setup for Romania is 2032. It's not our, we have actually in Romania 2 main regions. It's Jiu Valley and Gorj County, which is more surface mining, lignite. We have black coal, so it's a bit different, and different specificities, in terms of transition. When you think about open pits, it's a different approach rather than underground mining. So that's about the area from where I come from. So how did we start this thing? It's on the European agenda, but that does not mean that it's on the local agenda. Especially people and simple people don't really care, like I didn't care about just transition mechanism and JTF funds. Not that I'm not interested in accessing money, but I thought it's more about environmental things. And soon, what bothered me as a social worker, because I was working for Caritas, maybe you know, this was a big NGO that works, and I worked with children. I had a home care, daycare for children. I had a program for youngsters, and the program for elderly. And what bothered me was just the just part of the transition. And when I got activated, because there was a lot of discussion about the economy and about, let's say, energy transition, but there was no justness. So I said, okay, then I have to allocate a bit of time from my social working activities and just to see what's going on. And we had a lot of discussions in the community with the ministry. And I always ask the question, okay, I can understand that we will pass from carbon-based industry to something else, but let's see what we can do for the people, because I'm in contact with the people, they don't know anything about it. Let's see how we can integrate this. Okay, and then after 2 hours, I became more interested, and then I had 6 hours for this, and now I'm full-time doing this. What I would like to say is that in a small community like ours, the most important thing was I was all by myself, but there were other people in the community which were interested, maybe not from a social point of view, but from a cultural point of view. So we decided, we ended up together drinking something, and we said, okay, this we have to have a say in the just transition mechanism, because it's actually deciding the future of our community. So how can we be more efficient, and we decided to create this coalition of NGOs. We started 4 NGOs. We was Caritas, it was Planeta Petrila, which is actually a mining site, which it's an association that takes care of the heritage in a former mining site, and 2 other bigger NGOs, to say so. And we started from 4, and we just went and made a press release that we are starting this coalition because we want to have a say in what's going on in our region. And now we are 25 NGOs, smaller, bigger. You can see, back, if you can see, that's all the logos, and you can see like big organizations like Save the Children or Red Cross or things like this, but also small initiatives, because when we created actually the framework, we saw that there are actually a lot of initiatives in a small community that we did not know there are. And they came together, and we created this coalition, which has nothing formal. It's only a WhatsApp group. It's mainly, but an active WhatsApp group. Sometimes it's not good for sleeping, but it's... it works. So we have also a website. You can look there, valeajul'implicată.org. That means like we are involved in the process. And we started to write to the ministry. We started to write to the European Commission that we want to be involved in the strategy, because it was that time when they started doing the TJTPs, the Just Transition Plans, the strategy for the region. And we said, okay, we would like to have a voice, and it was very hard actually to participate, because when you have a group of 20-something people from SMEs, from NGOs, and we said, okay, we will be a bit more organized, we will have 2 or 3 leaders, and that's it. We will discuss ourselves, and this is our agenda, and we started to write, and we only signed only the letters, 25 NGOs, but at meetings we were 2 or 3 people which participated, together with the public authorities. I will not say that the process was not easy. Most of the times the municipalities didn't care about us, and they just wrote to the ministry, this is where we want to spend the money. Of course, now, you know, there is hearsay, and we found out, and then we sent a letter to the commission, and the commission sent a letter to the ministry, and then it was not an easy process, but still. And that made us not very nice in front of the local municipalities, yes, but because they had to redo everything afterwards. Either way, it was just a way to actually educate that communication between stakeholders is very, very important. Okay, next slide. So that's why I say it's very, very important in all transformative process at the community level to have this kind of coalition of civil society. Even we don't only have NGOs, we have people which are working in Bucharest who want to contribute as left from our region, because you have to take into consideration that these regions have a lot of potential, and it's not inside the community. It can be outside the community, but they want to help. So you just create the framework. And that's what we've done. As I mentioned, we created actually the framework for partnerships, easy access to lobby initiatives. As I mentioned, it's easier, for example, when you have a letter of 25 NGOs to the Commission writing that, look, the way things are done is not really according to your website. Stakeholder engagement was part of the principles. Okay, it's not done. Let's see how we can do it. So it's better to have this kind of initiative. A pool of know-how. As I mentioned, there are a lot of resources. When we started the Facebook page and we started do some communication, a lot of people which left from our area started to contact us, and we want to help. And for example, when we have, for example, a campaign, we use somebody from Cluj, from Bucharest, which are doing the designs and things. So the people want, because everybody is actually connected to the roots. Even if you are working probably now in Belgrade, but if you are from here, you still want to help. That, I think it's something natural in the human spirit, actually. And as I mentioned, another reason is it created actually an incubator for new NGOs, because some people have good initiatives but don't know the know-how, don't have the know-how on how to create new NGOs. And we created these meetings where we started, okay, we will help you with the formal things, we will give you some examples, you can do it together, you can find new members very easy. Next slide, please. Yeah, and you created the massive event together with the municipalities and the county council and everything to know that we exist, which is also very, very important. Fortunately, the France embassy supported our wine, which was very, very good, yeah, from this point of view. Yeah, it's France, you know. So, yeah, what's been done? So what have we done? In-house training for members. This is we started like we said, okay, we are now a new big coalition. What should we do? First of all, it's my way of being a social worker. I said, okay, we need to first look on what we have, which is not good. So we started to see that actually a lot of our members are doing very good things, but nobody knows about them. So we started to work with them a little bit to make them a bit aware that it's very important to also promote and also to not only promote, but to communicate very well. So we did some in-house training and we supported some of the projects. Unfortunately, when we started, the pandemic hit. So all of our initial, let's say, efforts, yes, thank you very much, were actually put down because of COVID, but we said, okay, we still are a coalition, we put all our resources and we made social help for the people which were affected by the pandemic. And position papers supported members from the NGO sector in the governing body of the region, which I will tell you afterwards, and we have activated specialists. That's actually one of the projects in a former mine where we started to create like murals and community activation actually within the mining site, just to get the people to come in the sites to see the former mining sites, which is the mine which is closed. Next slide, please. Well, how we've done it, hard but not impossible. We identified first a few local civil society leaders. And this is very, very important because at least in our community, NGOs sort of are categorized, the good ones and the bad ones. Who knows what's the good ones or the bad ones? Nobody knows, but usually from the political side, mainly if you are against them, you are the bad ones, or you have something against them, then... But we don't care about the politics, actually, we care about what the people are feeling towards the NGOs and the activists. And actually the leaders of this coalition were people which were doing social work. This is very objective, doing cultural activities, and we, just like myself, as I mentioned, I was more interested actually in providing social care to the elderly, not to discuss about energy transition, but still, we said that the leaders of this coalition should be people which are objective. Nobody in our coalition has any members in any political party. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be employed. Even if the association has a member, unfortunately cannot be there, just in order to bring a little bit of transparency actually and a little bit of credibility. Yes, we organized events, which is very, very important. Sometimes you don't have the money, but sometimes you don't really need a lot of money to create the events inside the community, actually. And we've created like planting some trees, things, and you just introduce the topics along the events. Because if you like make webinars and things like this, nobody will participate. You just need to like scrap up your resources and just organize some events which are sometimes not even connected to it. Just, I don't know, make a activation or just pick up garbage from somewhere and things like this, and just introduce. For example, now we are having guided tours in the mine for the youngsters, and we have at the end a discussion about just transition, just to put the topic on the table. And we discussed with this association, and they say we will make free guides in the mines. And then that's how I think it's more effective to introduce actually the term of transition in the community. And as I mentioned, make yourself present in the community. Next slide, please. Okay, so very inspiring Victor Hugo quote, which I don't remember, but you can see it because I cannot read it. Either way, there is a contribution. As I mentioned, we have started to say, okay, this is one role of this coalition is actually to activate the people and to get just transition in public mentality. And the second one was to contribute to the strategies. And we contributed to the TJTP. We have pushed a lot at actually the NGO sector is not only a monitor in decision making, but also is part of the decision at the table. So this was a risk actually, because it's sometimes more comfortable to sit and monitor and look and say this is not good, this is right. Usually it's not, it's not so much responsibility, but when you are part of the decision, then you lose a little bit of the civil society aura that you have around you, and you need to go just like a politician somewhere in the compromise zone, which is very dangerous from my point of view for an NGO but we said, okay, this is the time, we might as well do it, we'll take a chance, like Abba said, right? Okay. Make implementation transparent, have independent communication, because a lot of information, as in Bulgaria said, is kept at public level, and actually, especially when about strategies is very nice, but when you come to money, then every information is there. So the fact that we were part in the discussions in actually allocating the money for different investment gave us the information, and the information we could do it, make it transparently. And we have on our website, you will see that actually we are members of the governing body. We are saying what opportunities are arising, and try to make it actually a just transition, like for everybody, because just is. Where did it come from? This term of just transition came from the unions at the core of, so transition is inevitable, but just transition is something that we have to take into consideration, and actually it comes from the people. It might be a bit populistic, but in general, this is how it is. So you have to go bottom up actually with your transition, and sometimes it's not what Europe likes, sometimes it's not even what the national strategies want, but this is the possibility of the community. You cannot force, you cannot enforce actually, because it's not sustainable. Any policy actually which comes top-bottom is generally very, very hard to be sustainable and incremented in the local culture. Okay, next slide please. We didn't do this on our own, and you have to acknowledge actually which were the people which helped us, especially with lobbying to the European Commission, to the ministries. And you see some of the people which were involved, from Greenpeace, from Bankwatch. Of course, when you associate yourself as a coalition with Greenpeace and Bankwatch, you expect some things, especially from the public side, but we made it not only in public. What we negotiated with them, with Greenpeace and with Bankwatch, was not to make like position papers and blah blah. We just make projects in the city, small projects, and we created small community activation projects, which show actually that maybe it's got a coal phase out agenda, but still it makes. So we created in a center, for example, a hiking for children thing, and we discussed it around there. So it's very, very important from my point of view, not only to make it only theoretical, but to make like some very practical activities, so that the people know that there are things changing in the community. So next slide. Okay, so we, after some efforts, we drafted the TJTP, we drafted the strategy, and we had to have a governing body, because every process needs to have like some leaders. And as I mentioned before, we were very interested not only to be part of a monitoring committee, but also to be part of the decision-making process. This was not easy to do. But we had help from the European Commission, which was very, very happy that we started to be very much involved. And they said, okay, this governing body should be inclusive, and we want inside the members of this governing body to be NGOs also. Now you need to to understand that this was not easily taken, especially from the county council, local council, even the ministry, but we managed actually to create like a very interesting governing body, which I am the director of, but in the end, which is another story itself, we were just members at the beginning. But we started this governing body, and it embodies actually the university, which is also very, very important in the transformative process, the county council, so the region, the 6 representatives of the 6 municipalities, 4 NGOs, and yeah, that's it. 4 NGOs, out of which one of the NGO is the Association of the local businessmen in our region. So it's pretty inclusive. We'll see how it goes. It's not an easy, let's say, it's not an easy forum to discuss because everybody has their own agenda, but it's actually a thing to balance the decision-making process together. So this is the governing body, Asociația pentru, it's a long name, but yeah, that was available. The only name available was not our choice, but either way. Next slide, please. Okay, so we did the governing body. I have to say that in our region, out of the transition mechanism, we have 180 million only in Jiu Valley. But all in all, with all the cohesion policy, actually, which embodies the Just Transition Fund, we have roughly 300 million euros available in our region, which will be handled by the region. How it will be handled by the region it's another story, because as I mentioned, it's easy to draft strategies, but when you have money, then okay, usually the decision should be top down. According to the ministry, we negotiated together with the help of the European Commission, which was on our side actually, that actually the governing body will handle this money and will make all the allocations, and also they will, let's say, rank the projects when they are applied. We will have the possibility actually to invest in according to the local priorities. So it should be actually a very bottom-up process. We'll see how it goes. We have only launched our first call for SMEs. I'm very frightened a little bit that we will have not enough projects for the money, but in general we try to activate them as much as possible, and we are waiting to see that the people are interested actually, because part of the Just Transition, as you can understand, because our region was a mono-industrial one, is the economic diversification. And our focus is to support, firstly, the local business makers, and then we will see what resources are available, because the people which created business in our region were the ones there in difficult times. So it's not because I like the local businessmen, it's just because there is more sustainability in investing in something which is local rather than to bring another corporate thing which is coming for 6 years, making 200 jobs, but afterwards, if it's not economically viable, we'll move it to Ukraine, hopefully, when the air freaking war ends. Okay, I've deviated a little bit. I'm going back. More than this, we try to make some projects, because for 2 years we have discussing these TJTP strategies, and we have activated a lot of people and then nothing. Which is not very good for business, to say so, because then you are mainly the one who gets all the, how do you say it, all the stones, you know. And I always keep on saying that it's very, very important to do some stuff, because I don't think we will reach everyone in our community with this Just Transition process, and that's now not our focus, and I very much enjoy critical feedback from people. But we took a lot of time to draft, which I know should be inclusive, should be stakeholder engagement is very important, but sometimes doing it for such a long time, it's a party breaker and actually kills the enthusiasm for people to go further with the process. So we are now at the moment where we've drafted everything, so I say this with high hopes for Bulgaria, that the time is not lost. We still haven't spent the money, so do the programs, don't spend too much time on strategy, but try to make some projects, because this is how people will get together. If they will see that something is going on at local level, then they will be part of the process. If we are just discussing in webinars, let's say stakeholder engagement forums and things like this, okay, it's important, but still, it's very, very important afterwards to do something very practical. So we started doing some projects. Community in Romania, which has two components. First of, from my point of view, and I'm sure from your point of view, the best way to do, to save energy is to make to reduce the cost is to save the energy, not to use the energy. So first, we will make a lot. We will allocate a lot of money for energy efficiency in public and residential buildings, together with producing green energy from photovoltaic. Why is it a municipality-led? Because mainly the land for the photovoltaic comes from the municipality. Also, in this energy community, we will include the SMEs and the private people, let's say. They will be part of the energy community, and we have an advantage. I consider this an advantage, the fact that we have no legislation, you know, because you can create the legislation. If you create like a good pilot, then you can be one of the leaders of the legislation, because we shouldn't follow legislation. We have to make the legislation happen somehow. That's at least my point of view. So I'm very much in a hurry to start doing something on the ground, because the National Energy Ministry came and they said, we don't know what to do, and say, we will do it, you will just then write your papers, I don't care, we will do it, and then you will see how it goes, and we will adapt it. Maybe it will be good, maybe it will be bad, but you will learn something from it. So my focus is, I will not wait for the TJTPs, I will not wait for anything, I'm just doing some stuff which together with the people and this governing body, we need to do something at the moment. So this is our first big project. As I mentioned, we are part of this 3 national parks in our region, and it's one of the advantages that we have to take into consideration. So we are thinking on slow tourism concept based on local entrepreneurs and local heritage. I will tell you a little bit about the local heritage, because it involves not only the mining, the industrial heritage, but also the former people which before mining came there, and it's a very picturesque place, and we want to invest in that. Next slide, please. Yes, economic diversification, as I mentioned, it's not very easy to do, because in a mono-industrial area, the entrepreneurial culture is not so well developed. You don't really have much entrepreneurs. And when you kill the industry, then the entrepreneurial culture, where should it come from? Yeah? So we need to teach. We can subsidize, but in the same time, we need to teach people to become entrepreneurs, because we have a lot of micro enterprises, but they cannot scale to a medium-sized, because they don't have the culture. How can you, for example, introduce new levels of decision and things like this? Everybody does their own thing, but they cannot scale. So, but looking at the history of the region, how could you have it when everything was dependent on the mine, on the TPP thing? So nobody tried to, because everybody was living good out of this, or whatever, corruption, you know.
Exactly. 5 minutes more, okay?
But no, I'm finished.
Good.
Yeah. So one of the most important thing is, for example, the heritage, and the identity. Even though we will close the mines, that's for sure, sooner or later, I think it's very, very important that our local identity should be kept, our industrial identity, I mean. And we have fought literally on the ground with the ministry not to shut down everything. Not shut down, demolish all the buildings inside the mines. Unfortunately, there was a photo, and some of them we couldn't rescue, but some of them now, especially, we are very much keen to and to keeping, and we have charted all the buildings which have industrial heritage value, to say so, and we will create spaces, public spaces, actually out of the mining sites. Probably you've been in Germany or somewhere in Zollverein or in Ostrava or somewhere where you have seen actually that these mining sites can be actually some very interesting, let's say, elements in the urban planning and urban development. And we have in cultural concept in Mina Petrila. I would recommend to you to watch, maybe you will watch it also, the movie, it's on Netflix or something, I don't know, Planeta Petrila. This is an NGO, it's called Planeta Petrila. It's about a local artist which when the bulldozers were in the mining site, he was painting the walls, everything, and he stopped everything together with a team of architects. And now, for example, for this mine, we will allocate roughly 60 million euros out of the JTF fund just to create spaces for people to get together around, to have some events there. And it's Planeta Petrila. And now we have, even though, as I mentioned, 2 of the mines will close in 2026, we have already done the planning of what are the buildings that we will keep in the other 2 mines which will close. So this is very important because a lot of the people, you know, are very reluctant in transition itself, but they are very, very much, you can very much attract that, okay, we will make transition, but we will still keep our identity. And the place where you've worked will still be there. Maybe it's going to be a bar, maybe it's going to be an event hall, but still it's going to be there. And I think it's very, very important in transition processes to take into consideration the local identity of the area. Next slide. So minders involve NGOs in implementation of projects, partnerships with public authority. Keep close to the media, which I know sometimes it's hard, but and there are different types of media, depends on who's funding the media. Don't forget to organizational development projects. As I mentioned, it's very, very important not to organize a lot of webinars, discussions, but just create them around the very practical activity. And there is no time to waste valuable people, because usually in these regions you have a brain drain, you have some processes. So there is no time to waste. You need to invest a lot in people, because people will make the change. You end up with a lot of money like we have, and sometimes you find yourself in the position what to do with the money. This is not something that is easily to be handled, to be honest, because you need valuable people to stay there and to enforce them and to create actually the framework for yeah. And so I see the first yawn. It's time for me to, I think it's the last, yes, and here you have some of the resources. The first one is the site of the NGO coalition. The second one is the site of the governing body, and we as NGOs created the site. It's called Invest in Jiu Valley. We created not the business environment, because we saw that there is need for economic diversification, and we've charted all territories. We've said what is the added value of from economical point of view. So we've done it because nobody did it. So of course you can say, oh, you should do it, but we had the coalition, we had 2 people which were interested in the economic, or say, you will give you the platform, you just make it. And he went and he charted all of the industrial sites, how much land it is, how many pipes do you have running water there, things for potential investors. So this is something that we created on our own, just to try to make it viable for potential new investors. And that's those are the 3 people which started actually the coalition. Email, Adina Vințan, Alexandru Kelemen, myself, and Mihai Danciu, an architect. So urbanist, a social worker, and an architect. We started this coalition, and we are somehow trying to make it just. That's it. Thank you very much. And I'm here for questions.
Thank you.